Well met, friends. I am Archmage Milo Luckyleaf of the Riven Council, and today we are studying Fireball. Now, before you tell me you already know this spell, consider the following. The fire spreads around corners, that wall you ducked behind. If there is an open path from the detonation point to you, you are in the blast. The most argued about line in the entire spell description, and most casters read right past it. Let us settle two things about Fireball that will change how you picture it in the field. The first is the one that trips up even experienced casters. Fireball requires line of effect to the target point, not line of sight. Those are two different requirements, and the spell description only demands one of them. Line of effect means no solid barrier blocking the open path between you and the point you are targeting. Line of sight means you can actually see it. Fireball asks for the first and does not care about the second, which means you can legally drop a fireball into a cloud of magical darkness, into a bank of fog, into a corridor you cannot see around, so long as the path is open. I have known wizards who spent entire careers assuming this was illegal. They were wrong, and that error cost them fights they could have won. The second thing to settle is the size of the blast, because most casters badly underestimate it. A 20-foot radius sounds modest until you put it on a grid. That is a 40-foot diameter. On a standard 5-foot grid, you are looking at a circle roughly 8 squares across. 8 squares. Picture that the next time you are deciding whether your ranger is far enough away from the point of detonation. The answer is probably no. The number of times I have watched a caster catch their own fighter in a fireball because they were eyeballing a mental circle half the actual size is, frankly, embarrassing for all involved. Count the squares, every time. There are a few other things worth naming before we move on. Upcasting adds 1 die of fire damage per slot level above 3rd, so a 5th level slot gives you 10 dice instead of 8. The material component, a tiny ball of bat guano and sulfur, is never consumed on casting, which means you need exactly 1 and it lasts indefinitely. And the spell ignites flammable objects in the area that are not being worn or carried. A clause we will return to shortly because it is more useful than it sounds. A group of soldiers steps into a corridor and drops a darkness spell. The whole passage goes black. They know you cannot target what you cannot see, so they advance without fear, weapons ready, utterly confident. And they are wrong, because you do not need to see the point. You need a clear path to it. You know where they were standing when the darkness fell. You know the corridor is open. You point a finger at a spot 12 feet down that hall, speak the words, and the entire passage detonates. That is the line of effect rule paying forward. Darkness is one of the most common ambush tools in the world, and Fireball is one of the few 3rd level spells that answers it directly. The darkness does not protect them. It just makes them feel safe for a moment before the fire arrives. Now, the ignition clause. Most casters treat it as a footnote, a small note about setting tapestries alight. I want you to think about it differently. Your party's conjurer drops a web spell across a corridor. Enemies are restrained, the fight looks good. But web requires concentration. 1 solid hit on your conjurer and the web dissolves. The enemies are free, and the situation deteriorates quickly. Here is the alternative. You drop a fireball into the webbed area. The web ignites. A burning web deals fire damage to any creature that starts its turn inside. And unlike the original spell, the fire does not require concentration to maintain. You have converted a 1st level spell slot's area into a persistent, self-sustaining fire hazard. The same principle applies to oil-soaked ground, to dry straw in a barn, to any flammable surface your party has prepared in advance. I learned this the hard way, in a warehouse full of barrels I was not supposed to be standing in, but the principle holds. There are 2 situations where you should leave Fireball in its slot entirely. The first is when you are facing a single high-health target with no other creatures nearby. Against one creature, 8 dice of fire damage halved on a successful save averages somewhere around 14 points. That is a poor return on a 3rd level slot. Save the slot. Reach for something that concentrates its force on one target. The rule of thumb I use: 3 enemies or more, or Fireball stays prepared for the next fight. The second is fire resistance. Devils resist fire. Fire elementals are immune to it. Red dragons are immune to it. A considerable portion of the undead resist it. Fire resistance is the single most common damage resistance in the monster manual, and Fireball is pure fire damage with no alternative. If you are walking into a lair of devils, and you have not taken Elemental Adept, your Fireball is half a spell. Check the creature type before you commit the slot. The players who get the most out of Fireball are the ones who stopped chasing the damage roll and started reading the terrain and the target list. If any of this shifted how you think about Fireball, I would be grateful if you liked this record and subscribe to the Arcane Library, so the Council knows its work is finding the right hands. Everything we did not have time to cover today, the full rulings, the edge cases, the ignition interactions, all of it lives at therivencouncil.com. Most players never look past the damage number. You now know better. Use that.